A glimpse at Audrey Hepburn's regal posture can lead many to believe she was born into aristocracy. Yet her origins were far from any official palace or princely title. Although her mother had distant ties to a minor branch of Dutch nobility, Audrey never actually held a formal rank. Modern audiences crown her as Hollywood royalty, but her earliest chapters show a childhood devoid of glamour, revealing just how deeply life's challenges molded the refined elegance that the world came to cherish. Audrey Kathleen Rustin was born on May 4, 1929 in Ixelles, a district of Brussels, Belgium. It was a time of global economic shifts just at the start of the Great Depression. Europe was experiencing vast social and financial upheavals, and Belgium, though relatively stable, was not immune to the challenges that would soon sweep across the continent. Many families struggled to find their footing. Audrey's parents were Joseph Victor Anthony Rustin, an English banker, and Ella van Heemstra, a Dutch woman who once carried the courtesy title of Baroness, though by the time Audrey was born, much of that aristocratic status had faded into little more than old documents and the occasional social connection. In day-to-day reality, they lived a life that was comfortable at times, but far from consistently wealthy. Audrey's early childhood would be characterized by a shifting sense of place and belonging. Joseph was a charming, cosmopolitan figure, always looking for bigger financial opportunities. He had a bit of a mysterious air about him, with partial English and Austrian heritage. Audrey's mother, Ella, was more reserved, at times stern, but carried herself with an understated dignity that her daughter would later famously embody on the silver screen. Ella had married once before, and Audrey's father was her second husband. From the outside, perhaps they seemed a glamorous couple, well-traveled, acquainted with Europe's upper social circles. But it wouldn't take long for tensions to arise between them. Joseph was prone to abrupt decisions, and Ella had her own strong opinions. Little Audrey's early environment featured visits to relatives in The Hague in the Netherlands, short stints in Brussels, and eventually some time in England. Over this patchwork of addresses, Audrey began to pick up different languages with an ease that would serve her well in the future. By the age of 5, she was already conversant in Dutch and English, and she would later add French to her repertoire, a testament to her adaptability. Yet for all the outward novelty of traveling across Europe, her childhood was not stable. Joseph left the family when Audrey was just 6 years old. She had adored him with a child's unwavering devotion, and years later Audrey would cite his abandonment as one of the most traumatic experiences of her life. In interviews, she sometimes mentioned how that event cast a shadow over her ability to fully trust people and fueled her fear of being left behind. She once said, "The most important thing is to enjoy your life, to be happy. It's all that matters." Friends and biographers alike have suggested that her commitment to spreading kindness stemmed in part from a need to fill the void of her father's absence. After Joseph left, Ella tried to retain some semblance of security for Audrey. They moved to Arnhem in the Netherlands, where Audrey took formal education and dance lessons, quickly displaying a natural talent for ballet. Then came World War II, a moment that would profoundly shape Audrey's worldview. In May 1940, when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands, Audrey was just 11. Suddenly, her carefree ballet classes and childhood curiosities vanished. The Dutch believed they might remain neutral, as they had during World War I, but that hope was quickly dashed. Ella changed Audrey's last name to Etta van Heemstra as a measure of safety, believing an English-sounding name like Hepburn Rustin might draw unwanted Nazi attention. In the bleak period of occupation, Audrey's family faced near-starvation conditions as the war dragged on. She performed small ballet recitals to raise money for the Dutch resistance. She also occasionally acted as a courier, carrying messages, though she later admitted the memory of those times was blurry from malnutrition and ongoing fear. The end of the war saw the teenage Audrey deeply affected by what she had witnessed: the cruelty of occupation, the resilience of ordinary people, and the preciousness of life itself. This perspective shaped how she would treat others throughout the rest of her days. But she was also a young girl with dreams. Dance remained her passion, so she traveled to London in 1948, just 19 years old, to study at the Rambert Ballet School. Even then, money was tight. She lived in modest quarters, occasionally skipping meals to pay for classes. She soon realized that while she was talented, her physique, weakened by years of undernourishment, would likely prevent her from ever becoming a prima ballerina. It was a heartbreaking moment of truth. However, that heartbreak opened the door to something else: a modeling job here, a small part in a stage production there. Before long, Audrey discovered a new creative outlet in acting. She began her on-screen career with small, often uncredited roles, but her unique look, those big, expressive eyes and that delicate frame, soon caught attention in a film industry dominated by more overtly voluptuous actresses. Audrey's big break famously arrived when the French author Colette happened to see her on the Monte Carlo set of a film called New Irons of Monte Carlo, 1951. Legend has it that Colette took one look at Audrey, strolling by in costume, and declared she had found the perfect actress to portray Gigi in the upcoming Broadway adaptation of her novel. It was an extraordinary stroke of fate. The production of Gigi opened in November 1951, and while critics were divided on certain aspects, Audrey's performance garnered consistent praise. She was charming, fresh, and exuded an innocence mixed with quiet determination. Audiences were enchanted, and industry insiders took note of this new talent. In 1953, Audrey starred in Roman Holiday opposite Gregory Peck. This would be the role that turned her into a household name. Still, the role showcased her rare blend of regality and vulnerability, characteristics that felt authentic after the hardships she had endured in wartime Europe. From the moment that film was released, critics and audiences alike were captivated. Audrey won the Oscar for Best Actress for her performance, a virtually unheard-of feat for a relative newcomer. Gregory Peck famously insisted that her name appear alongside his in equal type size on film posters, recognizing the undeniable star power she brought to the project. It wasn't just her face that dazzled. It was the gentle but indomitable spirit behind it. In the aftermath of Roman Holiday's success, Audrey's career surged. She had a flair for picking iconic roles. The following year, she starred in Sabrina, 1954, directed by Billy Wilder, alongside Humphrey Bogart and William Holden. On set, many behind-the-scenes watchers noted the tension between the more cynical Bogart and the sunny, almost ethereal Audrey. However, audiences saw only the chemistry that made Sabrina an enchanting romantic comedy. Meanwhile, William Holden was reportedly smitten with her in real life, and they embarked on a brief relationship. Holden allegedly even considered leaving his wife, but Audrey, who wanted children, found out that Holden had undergone a vasectomy. Their affair ended soon after, a personal heartbreak overshadowed by the film's success. This behind-the-scenes drama never morphed into a public scandal of epic proportions, mainly because the era was more discreet about such matters, and also because Audrey was determined to maintain her dignity in the face of heartbreak. While her film career soared, Audrey also navigated her first marriage. In 1954, she wedded actor Mel Ferrer, a man 9 years her senior. Some onlookers described Ferrer as intense, perhaps even controlling, while others thought he was merely protective of her. They performed together in War and Peace, 1956, and collaborated on other projects. She respected his intellect and credits him with pushing her to deepen her acting craft. The couple had a son, Sean Hepburn Ferrer, in 1960. Being a mother delighted her, yet it wasn't without challenges. Audrey suffered multiple miscarriages, experiences that tore at her emotionally. She had always yearned for a stable family life, something she never truly had as a child. When asked about the subject, she was known to say that family mattered more than any movie role. Still, the marriage to Ferrer eventually grew strained. Some speculate that he was jealous of her fame, while others point to fundamental personality differences. In 1968, they divorced. Audrey, typically private about personal issues, did not publicly air the reasons, choosing instead to move on quietly. During the height of her career, she gave the world some of the most iconic images in cinematic history. None looms larger than Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961, directed by Blake Edwards and based on Truman Capote's novella. She portrayed Holly Golightly, a New York socialite with a whimsical spirit hiding a painful past. It became one of the defining roles of her career, complete with that little black dress by Givenchy, oversized sunglasses, and a cigarette holder. To this day, that silhouette remains a cultural touchstone, emblematic of Audrey's ability to blend chic fashion with poignant emotional nuance. Ironically, Capote had wanted Marilyn Monroe for the part, but once the cameras rolled, it was impossible to imagine anyone but Audrey as Holly. That film's success catapulted her to a new level of stardom, one that included not just accolades, but also huge financial rewards and constant media attention. Yet for all the glitz, Audrey remained humble, frequently stating that she didn't see herself as a movie star, that she was just doing a job she loved. In the early 1960s, she also starred in The Children's Hour, 1961, with Shirley MacLaine, tackling a subject considered daring for the time, rumors of an implied lesbian relationship at a boarding school. Critics were divided, some calling the film progressive and others labeling it controversial. Audrey's performance was praised for its restraint and compassion, reflecting her respect for the material. Then came My Fair Lady, 1964, perhaps one of the biggest controversies in her career. She played Eliza Doolittle opposite Rex Harrison. Many theater purists felt that Julie Andrews, who had originated the role on stage, should have been cast in the film adaptation. Audrey was well aware of the tension. Moreover, her singing voice was dubbed by Marni Nixon for most of the musical numbers, leading some critics to claim that her performance wasn't authentic. Audrey was reportedly hurt by the backlash, especially when she learned the studio had not told the press up front about the dubbing. Even so, My Fair Lady was a massive box office success and garnered multiple Academy Awards, though Audrey herself was not even nominated for Best Actress, despite the film's sweeping success in other categories. She took the blow with grace, but friends later recounted that it stung, undermining her confidence in her voice and fueling her decision to step away from large musical projects. Behind the scenes, her personal life continued to shift. After her divorce from Mel Ferrer, Audrey found love again with Italian psychiatrist Andrea Dotti. They married in 1969, and she spent a good portion of the following years living in Italy, hoping to cultivate a serene family life. She had a second son, Luca Dotti, in 1970. For a while it seemed she had found the domestic harmony she'd craved. But the paparazzi in Italy were relentless. Photographs and rumors surfaced of Andrea's affairs, depicting him arm in arm with other women while Audrey was away. By the late 1970s, the marriage was failing. Still, she was determined to protect her children from a messy public scandal. She tried to live quietly in Rome and Switzerland, focusing on raising her sons. A major factor that weighed on her heart was the prospect of repeating her own childhood trauma. She did not want her children to experience broken homes or paternal abandonment the way she had. Ultimately, though, she and Dottie divorced in 1982. It was another private heartbreak, but she remained resolute in her devotion to her boys. After that point, Audrey largely retreated from film. She felt she had given the best of her years to the industry and now wanted to focus on family and a sense of personal fulfillment. While the public might have missed her on-screen presence, she found meaningful work in humanitarian efforts. She had supported UNICEF quietly for years, motivated by her own experiences of receiving international aid during the war. In the 1980s, she accepted a role as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, traveling to impoverished regions around the globe to draw attention to the suffering of children. From Ethiopia to Bangladesh to Latin America, she brought both global media attention and a genuine, compassionate presence. Journalists who traveled with her remarked how she would climb down from a jeep and immediately kneel next to a malnourished child, holding them gently while asking local health workers about the best way to help. "I've been given so much. I had to do something in return," she famously said. Her visits were not mere photo ops. She would often break down afterward, tearful at the suffering she witnessed, but then harness that emotion to campaign for funding and awareness. Her work helped raise millions of dollars for UNICEF programs. Many believed it was the most important role of her life. During these later years, she finally found the emotional support she needed with longtime companion Robert Wolders, a Dutch actor. Though they never officially married, Audrey spoke of him as her true soulmate. They lived together in Switzerland, cultivating a peaceful and private life, occasionally venturing out to glamorous events like the Academy Awards, only when it tied in with her philanthropic or film commitments. She believed wholeheartedly in giving back, stating in interviews that star status is a privilege with responsibilities attached. By the early 1990s, Audrey's health began to decline. She had ongoing issues with abdominal discomfort, often chalked up to her slim figure and hectic schedule. In late 1992, doctors discovered a rare form of abdominal cancer, appendiceal cancer, that had metastasized. She underwent surgery and treatments in Los Angeles, receiving visits from her sons, friends like Gregory Peck, and her partner, Robert Wolders, who rarely left her side. Despite the physical pain, she maintained her gentle spirit, comforting those around her with kind words. When asked if she felt fear or anger about her diagnosis, she reportedly replied that she had lived an incredible life, and her only sadness lay in the thought of leaving loved ones behind. A final anecdote from her friend and fashion designer, Hubert de Givenchy, reveals a glimpse into her state of mind near the end. When she was too sick to fly commercially, Givenchy arranged for a private jet to take her from Los Angeles back to her home in Switzerland, ensuring the interior was filled with fresh flowers and a comfortable bed. She arrived home shortly before Christmas in 1992, determined to spend her final days in the quiet Swiss countryside she adored. Audrey Hepburn passed away in her sleep on January 20th, 1993, at the age of 63. The world grieved. Tributes poured in, not only from fellow actors and directors, but from ordinary people who'd cherished her film roles or had been touched by her humanitarian work. Gregory Peck, her dear friend and on-screen partner in Roman Holiday, recorded a heartfelt video where he recited her favorite poem by Rabindranath Tagore, tears welling in his eyes. It was a moment that embodied the profound love and respect that followed her all the days of her life. In an era dominated by social media and instant celebrity, her story feels like a refreshing reminder that humility and grace can leave an even longer lasting mark than glitz and scandal. She was not a saint by any means. Those who knew her personally speak of moments when she could be intense about details or protective of her privacy. But those human elements only deepen our respect for her. She wasn't perched on a golden pedestal. She was simply Audrey, someone who faced adversity with a smile, embraced the spotlight with caution, and poured her energy into helping those less fortunate. And that's all for today's video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you'll always be in the loop. Thanks for watching.